Comedy, what do you enjoy about it?
I think over the years, like obviously as you start out just as a kid, I love to laugh. And then as I sort of developed my comedy taste or my sense of humor, I really started enjoying like the art and like the craft of like joke writing. That's what sort of draws me to it, because I think it takes just a very interesting mind to be able to take you on this journey and then get you to, really come back and laugh at the end.
In that 10-minute stand-up routine that you performed in Montreal, what was involved with creating that?
They told me I was going to be performing on a stage, and I thought it was going to be basketball, so I'm sorry, I have nothing planned for you guys.
I was going to go to this Montreal film Just for Laughs comedy festival, and I'd always wanted to go. And so somebody was like, do you want to like talk to somebody at the festival and see if like there's some stuff you want to do? And so I just was thinking like, oh, I'm going to go to like different things, and they were like, would you want to host a show? And I was like, oh, that'd be cool. Like, just like, put your name on it. You get to go to a show and pick out some comedians. And then they were like, okay, cool. And you'll just do like 5 to 10 up top. And I was like, wait, that's not what I was thinking. But then I was like, you know what? I'll do it. Like, I was like, I'll do 5 minutes.
And how much notice did they give you?
This was like a month and a half.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a while. So it wasn't like,
but
it was
that's
like
still
the next
not
week.
No,
it's not
doing
it's
something
not that
like
long.
that, yeah.
And then I also procrastinated. Early on, one of my buddies who's a stand-up told me like, just start writing stuff, write stuff down, and like you'll have it and you can like develop it, and like sometimes another thought will come. So I go to my notes folder and I start trying to put together 10 minutes, 5 minutes would stretch to 10. And I had all these jokes, and I was just like stuck. And I was like on the internet, I was like on YouTube watching interviews, and I watched a Seth Rogen interview where he was talking about when he started doing stand-up.
And that had a big difference for you in comedy, watching that interview, right?
Yeah, because he started talking about when he was 13, he was going up and he was doing, adult comedy shows, and he was tell jokes that were like adult jokes, and sometimes they wouldn't land, and came off stage, and a older comedian said to him like, how old are you? He was like, I'm 13. He was like, well, write about 13-year-old stuff. And that's when I was like, okay, I can write about basketball stuff. I can write about sports. That's what I know, and that's what people are gonna associate me with. So I scrapped everything, rewrote everything, and then went up and did it a couple of times in LA, and then went to Montreal and did it.
You've seen athletes be interviewed on TV, and they're so bad that you think they're stupid, but it's not that we're stupid. Actually, football players are stupid.
You said that first night in Montreal was the scariest night of your life.
Yeah.
Why?
Everybody kept saying like, oh, does like basketball help, like did it help you prepare for this? And I was just like, not even remotely, like in the least bit. Every comedian has bombed. So you never think you're above bombing.
Right.
Like certainly not me. If Jerry Seinfeld and Dave Chappelle and all these guys talk about bombing, then it's always in the back of my mind that it's going to happen, I just don't know when.
So I don't know if you'd be willing to do this, but on your phone, the notes field, any chance you'd be willing to like, open it up and say something you have in there, and like how you've been kind of toying in your head with
I don't know how
something?
many things are, I don't know how many things are like PG at this point. These are all thoughts that I haven't fleshed out. Okay, this is a bad one, but it's like the one I can read. I was watching this thing and I was trying to think like what like vibe this lady gives off. I was like, oh, she gives off the vibe that she leaves way too detailed Yelp reviews. And sorry if anybody here leaves Yelp reviews, but I read them and then I'm like, why did I read that and give it any validity?
What's the process in like taking that to making it on stage ready, should you determine that you eventually want to use it?
It would be just that. Set a joke up where you say you don't have any friends that leave Yelp reviews, and then hopefully somewhere you can bring it back to the beginning. You could bring it back to somebody leaving a Yelp review about my comedy set or something like that. This is just,
yeah, right.
Again, this is the first thought I've had about this, but sometimes it goes nowhere. Sometimes after 5 minutes, I'm like, that was so stupid. Like I'll never use that, but I leave it in there.
And you have buddies that you'll bounce ideas off onto, right?
Yeah, and like a good friend of mine, Neal Brennan, who's actually doing a show in New York right now that's incredible.
And he sends you stuff to punch up sometimes.
Yeah. He's given me a lot of advice, but he's like one of those guys that I have always been able to like send stuff to, and he's sort of taught me how to like get to that point. I'll send him something, and like instead of just sending his like change back, he'll tell me why. I learned early on was like, making it concise. Take out all the fluff, like get right to the point, set up, punchline.
What was involved with prepping for Alec Baldwin's roast?
Jeff Ross has a roast show in Montreal, a live roast show, and he asked me if I'd come up and do one. And then he just came up to me after the show and he was like, yo, we're doing Alec Baldwin on Comedy Central in like 2 months. Would you do it? And I was like, okay, I'll do it. I started writing like literally right away. It's like I have to have like good jokes.
And the pressure's on for that one. I mean, they're big time folks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I started writing, started sending stuff off to friends, and then finally got to a place where I had, I would say 5 jokes for everybody. And then I would go up in LA, Comedy Store, Laugh Factory, Improv, and I would just be like, hey guys, I'm working on this jokes for this Comedy Central roast, and the audiences were great. So I just like worked on it. I probably went up 10 times before I went on stage, maybe less. And I just figured out what worked, what didn't, my pauses, my timing, my all that. And it just made me so much more confident when I was going up.
You have a favorite joke?
Some of my Caitlyn Jenner jokes were a lot of fun. And on behalf of the entire NBA and half of the rappers on the Billboard charts, I want to thank you for giving your daughters their daddy issues. The Robert De Niro one I was really worried about. Caroline, if you're here, that means Salem the cat must have turned this down, huh? Sorry, Mr. De Niro, we know how much you love that black.
You apologized right afterwards.
Yeah. I was like, because we were all in this room like waiting, and he comes in super late and just walks in, shakes everybody's hand, doesn't really say anything, just kind of shakes everybody's hand. I was like, whoa, this guy's intimidating. Like,
really?
Like, oh yeah, big time.
Were you going through in your head like whether or not to?
No, I was gonna say it. No, I couldn't. I didn't come all that way not to say it.
Tell about Mortal Media.
Yeah, so Mortal, I started with my business partner Ryan Kalil.
Who played in the NFL for a long time.
Played in the NFL. Went to USC, really good at football, played in the NFL for a long time, but his true love was film and TV. But we both kind of had these various projects. So we met one day and we were just like, hey, we have all these things, we want to do sort of the same things. We really wanted to do it in a way where we sat down and we were like, would meet with people, meet with producers, writers, directors, whoever would sit down and meet with us, and sort of prove to them that like this is something that we really enjoy and we're passionate about. It's not just like a thing where it's like, oh, let's start a production company and slap our names on it. We wanted it to really come about it the right way, and it took time, which we were willing to spend, and now we finally have things that are really coming down and being ready to go.
And a big one here in Brooklyn's getting ready to start shooting for Apple, right?
Yeah, coincidentally, we have our first show really that we've done. Hello Tomorrow, about to shoot here in Brooklyn. That's one I'm very, very excited for people to see, sort of like a sci-fi dramedy show that started from an idea that my business partner had, that Ryan had, and we've had some success and been fortunate, and we're just trying to keep that ball rolling.
And White Man Can't Jump might be an example of this, but just the amount of time it takes to bring ideas into reality.
Absolutely, especially obviously with COVID, it slowed everything down. We had good momentum right before that, but then sort of kept the ball rolling a little bit through COVID, but we've been talking about this for, I think, maybe over 4 years. So it was a good lesson for me early on because I didn't know much about the business side of things, and I'm glad we started a long time ago because now it's starting to happen.